Coming up, geostationary launch vehicle Mark III.
China lays out plans to Mars.
Orion's back at the Kennedy Space Center. Plus, we take a look back at 2014. Stay tuned. This is your new tomorrow, America.
Up now. You can see the Soyuz
private space station.
Welcome to Tomorrow, episode 7.38 for Saturday, December 20th, 2014. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me is the beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Airiane Higginbotham will be your host for this episode. This is the last episode for 2014. So in the main topic area, we're going to be taking a look back. There was a lot of stuff. I think we sometimes forget how much stuff happens within a year.
Yeah.
Because it feels like it was, just yesterday or just whatever.
Right.
I was putting this list together. Holy cats, man. Stuff.
Things.
Before we get started with some space news, I did want to give a shout out to all of the patrons of Tomorrow who helped to make this specific episode happen. These are the people who've contributed at least $10 to this episode. You notice the list keeps getting longer and longer, so thank you to all of our new patron premier members. You can find more information on how you can help crowdfund this show over at patreon.com/TMRO. All right. Now, one other thing before space news. I'm going to say this in every single segment. Tomorrow is moving. I mentioned when we did the name change that it would be a very long, probably year-long transition from Spacevidcast over to Tomorrow. One of the things that will be happening starting with Season 8, Episode 1, we will be moving over to youtube.com/TMRO. Please subscribe to the new channel. I have no ability to move subscribers from one to the other. We will cross-post the shows on both for a while, but ultimately, the channel you want to be on is youtube.com/TMRO. First up, we had a Proton launch of the, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, Yamal 401.
3, 2, 1.
This happened Monday, December 15th at 16 minutes after the hour Coordinated Universal Time from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. The Yamal 401 is a communications satellite. It's going to help for communication services across Russia and some neighboring countries. Carries 53 transponders, so not a small bird. It's going to generate more than 10 kilowatts of power from its solar arrays. Designed for about 15 years of usable service. And it, like I said, launched on a Proton rocket. And the reason that's of interest is that the Proton rocket has had 5 launch failures in 4 years. So slightly gutsy that they launched on a Proton, but they didn't launch it with Roscosmos. They actually used ILS, or International Launch Services, which is a US-based company, and the ILS variants of the Proton, which is the same rocket, just a different launch provider, have actually been fairly stable. So there you go. Congratulations to ILS, Roscosmos, and everyone for getting Yamal 4. I thought I had what that meant. Maybe I don't, sitting in the show notes. Also, a huge congratulations to India. Some new stuff going on. The GSLV Mark III. And by the way, SpaceX, that's how you do it. It's not a version number, it's a Mark number. It's so much cooler when you say Mark III and Mark II as opposed to V1, V2. GSLV Mark III demo launch. Check it out.
3, 2, 1. Now, it's 1, it's 2.
So S400 ignited
4,
and
5,
safely cleared
6,
the umbilical pedestal.
7, 8,
Vehicle is traveling
normal.
across the umbilical tower.
So they kind of lost some of the footage in the beginning. Oops. They'll get it. There you go. And GSLV stands for Geostationary Launch Vehicle. That's the GSLV. Mark III is the third iteration of that. They've actually been working on this for over 10 years, so it's a very long program that they've been trying to make this go. This was actually kind of an experiment inside of an experiment. So in addition to running this demo rocket that they launched for the very first time, there's also a demonstration capsule up top that's called the Crew Module Atmospheric Reentry Experiment, or CARE. And we've got a picture of what CARE looks like when it splashed down in the ocean also. And that, there you go. So there's K-Air splashing down. So this is basically their precursor to some human spaceflight type of stuff. They wanted to, much like Orion, they wanted to test the heat shields and see how it was all going to work. Now, going back to the GSLV Mark III, can carry a 4-ton class satellite. So that's around, a little over 8,000 pounds, I think. And it's not quite done yet. They still need to develop a hydrogen-fueled upper stage, and they'll have another demonstration launch of that in another 2 years or so. So huge congratulations to India and the ISRO for conducting a successful test flight of GSLV Mark III. That's really freaking cool. Yet another launch vehicle. Tons of launch vehicles coming out or being announced in 2013.
I thought it was really cute. It was hard to hear, and I could be totally wrong, but I would swear that it was 3, 2, 1,
go.
And I thought that was an even better way of doing countdowns. Personally,
now instead of 0, it's go.
Go.
Absolutely.
That's what the rest of us are thinking anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly.
All right.
So Soyuz or Ariane space launched O3B satellites Thursday, December 18th at 18:37 Coordinated Universal Time from Guyana Space Center. We have some footage of that.
Top. Et décollage.
God, they always look so cool.
And pull.
You get the footage you can. This is 4 satellites owned by the O3B networks, which gives them 100 gigabits, up in orbit fleet-wide. The 4 satellites launched by O3B in June of 2013 have a defect in their power systems, a fault that the company says could reduce each spacecraft's usable lifetime. The O3B satellites orbit at 5,000 miles, more than 4 times closer to the Earth than geostationary satellites, reducing latency. They want to build a network from 100 gigabits per second to a terabit per second.
Which, by the way, holy cats, right?
That's
Going
crazy.
from, they've got 100 gigabits on orbit right now. That's not a small feat. And they
Right.
want to move to a terabit on orbit. And because the satellites are not in geostationary orbit, they're really, really close to us. The latency is lower, which is a huge complaint with satellite internet services. So I'm excited to see what they can do in the future. I know that, so I believe their market, I almost said I know their market. I believe their market's mostly like cruise ships, like transcontinental airplanes going
Which,
over
if
the
you've
ocean.
ever been on a cruise or on a plane, you know how well that works.
Well, we haven't taken a cruise for a long time,
I
right?
suppose,
So
but-
these are for those next generations Uber cruise ships that have like
The Uber
right
cruise ships.
the Uber ships.
That's a good idea.
The Uber Uber ship. You request a ship from your phone.
We can discuss that in After Dark. But yeah, I like that idea a lot.
Whoever comes up with that, I get a cut. The Uber ship app.
Sorry.
I just derailed the entire space news.
That was me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so anyhow, it's for ships out at sea, oil platforms and
Right,
rigs out there
right.
where you're in the middle of absolutely nowhere
Right.
and you still want to have some high-speed internet. This is the type of service you use. But I would argue that, at least in the United States, internet service sucks because there's no competition between providers.
You're right.
For example, I can get here Time Warner Cable and List. So, and now, actually, they're not terrible, but as compared to the rest of the world, we could do so much better. And you see when like Google Fiber or someone else comes into the market, all of a sudden, whoever the incumbent was there, whoever the existing provider was, they're like, oh, well, now we can offer a gigabit full duplex. Well, no, you could always do that. You just chose not to because there was no competition. So I'd love to see satellite networks come out as broadband competition. I'm of the opinion broadband doesn't need regulation. It just needs competition. So there you go. All right, I'll get off that soapbox for a little bit. I'm going to pronounce all of this wrong. Just straight up. That's how this is going to go. Strela launched Kondor-E satellite. This is a Russian repurposed ICBM. Yeah, we don't have video of it. This is basically
Looks so cool, though.
It does look cool. Strela means arrow in Russian. It's derived from the UR-100 NUTTKH Intercontinental Ballistic Missile ICBM. That's what it's based off of. Actually, so is Rocket or Rokat. They're based off the same platform, but this one is simpler. The upper stage of this one is actually just a modified payload delivery platform from the ICBM, whereas Rokat is a whole different upper stage. So this is an easier, less expensive launch platform. I don't know if I mentioned that launched December 19th at 04:43 Coordinated Universal Time, and the payload, the Kondor-E payload, is designed to bring up electrical, optical, or radar imaging satellite. So unfortunately, that's all the more launch footage we have. But generally, if you've ever seen ICBM launch footage before, it goes whoosh, and there you get like 2 seconds of usable video, and that's
So they got a really great picture.
They did, yeah, probably high speed cameras going snap, 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 snap.
Now that was just an iPhone where you hold it down. Okay.
There you go.
China outlines their space station, moon, and Mars plans. They're hoping to put an orbiter and rover on Mars in 2020, which is a little bit
Look at how cool that looks.
insane. Yeah, no, it looks amazing. Yeah, that looks amazing. The studies have been done. And now they want to execute on a plan. They want to have a complete space station around 2022, which is kind of interesting that they want to do a orbiter and rover on Mars in 2020, and then a space station 2022. But there's 3 parts with the core and the 2 labs. They have testing a heavy class rocket around 2030 with 130 tons to LEO, or low Earth orbit, and which will be required for moon missions. I can speak. I swear I can.
It's one of those days, like, you know how at the end of the year, you're at work, and you're kind of like,
You're already on holiday.
you've mentally checked out.
That's how this feels. I apologize. But I still got the information to you.
You know who has not mentally checked out is Ariane Space. That was this is a horrible transition.
Wow, Ariane Space, not yet on holiday.
Ariane 6 has been approved. There will be no Ariane 5 midlife evolution, or mid-evolution, I think is what that stood for. So no Ariane 5 ME. Instead, they're just moving purely to an Ariane 6. It'll happen in a couple different configurations. They're going to look something like this. This actually happened back on December 2nd. The ESA, the European Space Agency Council, decided to accelerate Ariane 6 development. There had been back and forth as to, are we going to do this midlife version? Are we not going to? Are we going to do just the Ariane 6? And this comes, basically, they're not hiding it. They're like, dude, this is a direct response to SpaceX. It's going to use 2 liquid hydrogen stages. It's going to have 2 or 4 solid motors on it, so you can see the 2 different configurations down at the bottom. But to help keep costs down, it's only going to have a single Vulcan engine on the primary boost stage. Second stage is going to be powered by the Vinci engine. It's designed for that Ariane 5 midlife evolution. And then, so pricing. So we all kind of know where we're at. The Ariane 6-2, that's the version on the left with the 2 motors, that's going to be $91 million and can deliver 5,000 kilograms or 11,000 pounds to low Earth orbit. The Ariane 6-4, that's on the right-hand side. You can kind of use your imagination as to what the 4 means. That would be 4 solid motors on it. That's predicted to be $140 million US dollars. That's 11,000 kilograms or 24,250 pounds to low Earth orbit. To put this into perspective, a Falcon 9 1.1 config is about 13,150 kilograms, 28,900 pounds to low Earth orbit, and runs $61.2 million. And that's why they're trying to drive their costs down, because the existing Falcon 9 is already at a lower cost. I think they're hoping that some of the launch operations, the kind of the name behind Ariane Space has been there. It's a legacy name. They can maybe charge and command a bigger price for their rockets because they've been around for so much longer. We'll see how the market reacts. It'll be interesting. So I'm excited to see yet another new rocket get developed.
Very cool. I'm pretty sure that we talked about this last week, but...
well, no, we talked last week. Technically, the reason I put it in here for 2 reasons. Last week, we talked about...
Orion, I can't talk. Orion was back on land.
But
now it's back on a specific part of the land.
Yes.
Yay! Orion is back at the Kennedy Space Center as of December 18th.
It's a cool photo.
It is a really cool photo, and that's the only reason I was going to not give you too much crap about it, even though I did. They took a 2,700-mile journey across the United States on a big rig truck, I imagine, and this is a really cool picture. I will give you that much. Orion spent, in case you couldn't remember, 4 hours and 24 minutes in space. It has...
Oh wait, no. Let me take this part.
Yes.
So the reason I wanted to bring up Orion is there have been tweets and Facebook posts and YouTube postings talking about Orion, how they're excited because this is going to enable deep space missions and Mars missions. But that's only half true. Orion has a 21-day active lifespan, meaning it can be in space for 21 days on active duty.
Yes.
21 days does not get you to Mars, and it does not get you to an asteroid.
But can't you put it to sleep and then reactivate it?
Yes, actually, great point. You can, but only if you have something else to maintain the life support.
Oh.
And that is the crew habitation module, which has been unfunded and unapproved. So, for Orion to be able to do a 6-month mission, we need that crew hab module. So 6 months, 21 days is what we'll be able to extend it to using crew hab, but we don't have a crew hab.
Oh.
We don't have a crew hab funded. There's no crew hab on the books right now.
Oh.
Right. So that's where we're at. Orion can enable some of these missions if we choose to let it by funding the other stuff to make it go. And that's kind of my gripe, and this is why I keep going. It doesn't have a mission. It needs a destination, because without that destination, it can't go to Mars. It cannot go to Mars. It cannot go to an asteroid.
Can.
Not with humans.
No, it just can be dead.
Yeah, well, it can. Yeah, I guess.
It can get there.
You can get there, not coming back. So that's kind of the argument against Orion. Now, I'm not saying it's not a great technical feat. I'm not saying that it's great to have yet another spaceship.
You have to start somewhere.
Well, you do have to start somewhere. There's nothing wrong with that. But now we need to actually fund the HAB module. We need to actually get these other sections going, and preferably not steal from planetary sciences in order to fund the crew stuff, right? Let the planetary guys have their bucket of money. Let them do the really cool things they're doing, and use a different bucket of money for the human-related stuff.
But we're going to a planet, so we really should take their money.
No, that drives me bonkers. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and you know what I forgot to do, and I'm going to fix it right now at the end of this segment.
Okay.
That is, I have been trying to say the new citizens each week.
Yes.
For each different area, and because I'm not in the habit of doing that yet, back at the top of my show notes,
yes.
The new citizens. Yeah, thank you, Dada. Do it. The new citizens were Tobyage, Austin, Trent, and Doug. All in the bottom right of that list. So thank you, citizens, for contributing to the show. When we come back, obviously I was looking at the next part of the rundown. When we come back, we're going to take a look back at 2014. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fall for little fashion lies. Filled on some expectation. This girl's a fascination. And nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking. She's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving. Through the heat, keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking. She's fire walking to be free.
Hey, lots of buttons and me not paying attention. Welcome back to the show. Carrie pointed out that I just said back a lot of times before the break.
When we come back, we're going to look back. Welcome back. Thanks for the back. You've got a nice back. Baby got back. Baby
All
got
right.
ribs.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you to all the patrons who have made this specific segment of this episode go. These are the people who've contributed at least $5 to this specific episode. The new citizens this week are Richard and Mark, so thank you so much for signing up. And you can find more information on how you can become a citizen of tomorrow by going over to patreon.com/TMRO. We are a crowdfunded show, and every single dollar absolutely helps. All right, we want to take a look back at 2014. There was a lot of stuff that happened in 2014. I guarantee you right now, I'm missing a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, because we start in May.
We do. We start in May. I'm missing a ton of stuff. So rather than yell at me for missing stuff, because that's what you guys love to do, leave it in comments on Twitter. On Twitter, I'm so choked up. There was so much that happened. On Twitter, YouTube, wherever you want to leave the comment, leave it on comments, and we'll talk about the things that I missed, start some cool conversations. But let's start May 29th, 2014. We all remember this? There we go. Awkward pauses.
I remember.
Dragon V2, no, Dragon Mark II was announced, and there you go. That was from the launch event itself. You have the absolutely gorgeous spacecraft right there. Now, this was announced prior to the CCT cap, the Commercial Crew Transportation Capabilities Contract. Oh my God, I can't believe I said it that fast.
Good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was to much fanfare and smoke, and it was awesome. It was a pretty cool event. So we probably all remember that. Moving forward a little bit, June 3rd, 2014. Who remember what happened then?
It's right before. Oh no.
I forgot that I did this. Take it. Firefly was announced. Wrong. Hey, I'm allowed. There you go. That's the actual Firefly Alpha.
Oh, right.
Wouldn't it be cool? Hey, now.
What?
Wouldn't it be cool if the other Firefly was actually announced? Some citizen of tomorrow, make a Firefly class ship happen. This was announced June 3rd, 2014. This is essentially like think of it like a Falcon 1 class, a very light class, very small, like nanosat class launcher for not a lot of money, and it uses the Aerospike engine, if you remember.
Yes.
You're right. So next generation propulsion design. They're based in Texas. They were kind of based in a couple places, but now I believe they're based in Texas. At this point. And it uses a carbon composites tank, which was something that was kind of new and unique.
Yeah, check this out.
And then boom, Electron rocket. That was announced not that much longer in later in July of 2014, and this is the Electron rocket from Rocket Labs. They're a New Zealand company, if I remember right. Oh, it says NZ right there. So
You do remember correctly.
Also a carbon composites tank.
Yeah.
But their thing is they want to rapidly, very, very rapidly be able to create these vehicles and launch them. So you go, look, I want something in however long it is. I don't remember rapid, but like a couple months later, you're ready to launch. Mm-hmm. You could do nanosats. You could do whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah, it's very cool.
That was announced July of 2014. Another test rocket. Check this out. This is Russia testing their next generation rocket platform. This is their Angara test rocket. This happened on July 9th, 2014. Now, Angara is it's a building block rocket, right? So you kind of have your core stage, which is what you see right here. Mm-hmm. But then if you need more power, you just start dropping more of the same stages on it.
Right.
So you just kind of build one of the thing, and then you just stick on whatever you want. The idea is to keep it onto a common platform to keep costs low. Mm-hmm. This has been in development for many, many years, and it's the first time Russia has announced a end-to-end new rocket for a very, very long time. And that actually launched on a very successful test flight. All right?
Awesome. Yeah.
So then, Dragon V2, that happened earlier in the year.
Right.
And then we had the NASA Commercial Crew Program announcement. This happened September 16th. September 16th, 2014. And this is where we down selected, and a little bit sad, we got rid of Sierra Nevada and the Dream Chaser from the Commercial Crew Transportation Capabilities contract. So Sierra Nevada does not currently have a contract with NASA to go up to station, which is kind of a bummer because part of me is rooting for the little miniature space shuttle, right?
Totally.
And it's just a really cool little vehicle. But the two companies that did make it are Boeing with their CST-100 capsule, and then SpaceX with their Dragon Mark II capsule. Mm-hmm. See what I did there?
I do.
A little bit later on, and this one sucked. This was tragic, horrible news for the year. Oh, I did, and I missed another one. Actually, before this one, and I forgot to grab a picture, and I forgot to put it in the rundown. The Orbital Sciences Antares rocket blew up right over the pad, right? We had a rapid unscheduled disassembly of the Antares rocket at about T plus 10 seconds, I think it was, somewhere in that time range, came raining back down. That happened late October is when that happened. And then since then, they have announced they're going to launch their Cygnus space capsule on top of the Atlas V rocket down from Cape Canaveral. So they're going to move one or two, possibly two, at least one, possibly two launches from an Atlas V down to Cape Canaveral. That will continue the contract with the International Space Station. And because the Atlas V is more powerful than the Antares rocket, they'll actually be able to put more stuff into Cygnus and bring up more cargo to the space station. So they'll be able to fulfill their contract. Because the contract isn't like, hey, you need to launch 7 times. It's, we need this much weight up to space station.
So however long it takes
you could drop, you could do it all in one launch if you were capable of doing that, or you can spread it out, which is what everyone has to do, over, X number of launches or Y number of launches, whatever that may be. And then, like, a week later, I think it was less than a week later.
Yeah, it was within the same week,
sadly. October 31st, 2014, Spaceship Two broke up over the Mojave Desert. And that was really, really sad. And hopefully, our hearts go out to everyone involved. Obviously, the co-pilot's life who was lost, and the families, and all of the co-workers, because this stuff is hard. This is for realsies rocket science, and that was not a fun time.
We had another crappy week in space.
Yeah, it was a bad week in space. So, October 31st, 2014. Then, on a much lighter note, something that happened, which was absolutely stunning. Humanity, for the very first time, landed on a comet. This is Philae, which landed November 11th, 2014 on comet 67P. For some reason I wrote B in the notes, but a 67P. Yeah, and that's obviously an artist rendition of what it would actually look like.
No, that was somebody who took a picture.
They were up there like snap, iPhone.
iPhone picture.
Now the awesome part was they were able to get science off of it, but the bad part is it didn't really just land. It kind of bounced on the comet for a bit. It fired harpoons, and they didn't actually they either didn't fire or they didn't lock in. The screws that were supposed to anchor it down, those didn't work. Chris Radcliffe says 67B, and the B is for bounce. And it did, and where it bounced and it ended up in the shade, which means those cool photovoltaics, those solar panels you see on the side, those don't work when there's no sunlight. So scientists had to scramble to get as much data and science off the vehicle as they could.
They did amazing job.
Man, they hustled, They hustled. So congratulations to the European Space Agency for making that go. That was an ESA mission. It's actually kind of amazing how many comments we got of people asking us if NASA would release X or Y related to Philae lander, and I'm like, why would NASA release anything? It's not their spacecraft.
Right.
There's more to space travel than just NASA, right? I mean,
thankfully,
ESA does great stuff. JAXA does great stuff. There are a
ISRO's coming online.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, they've been on, but I mean, they're doing bigger, badder stuff.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then finally this year. Oh, no, not finally. We have two left. I'm sorry. Orion launches and splashes down. This was that 4+ hour mission atop a Delta IV Heavy. And now this was the only time that this particular spacecraft will launch on a Delta IV Heavy. The next time you see Orion launch, it should be atop a Space Launch System rocket. And I have an active bet with Dave Maston of Maston Space Systems.
Yes.
And that bet says that I believe they will have the Space Launch System at the pad, with the intent to fly. Like the engines will now, from whether it flies or not, like from an engineering standpoint,
right?
Or there's a rapid unscheduled disassembly. That's not part of the bet.
Right.
With intent to fly, I believe SLS will be built with the intent to fly and make it to the pad.
That's funny.
We got a $1 bet on that. He says no, it will never be built. But if it is built, the Orion capsule will go on top of that, and it will that will enable humans to go into space. We could, with the Orion capsule as is right now, no HAB module, no nothing. You can make it to the moon and back, and have gas to spare. So we could do some pretty cool missions just here in our own backyard, our own playground, right? So Orion does enable some pretty cool stuff in our own playground without us having to fund a HAB module at all. So congratulations to NASA and all of the engineers who made that happen. That was a pretty cool feat. That's your next spacecraft, America. Oh my God. And in a brilliant tweet that came out from also Chris Radcliffe in the chat room, who said he's going to attach that phrase to just about everything he does in life.
Yes.
Right? So,
yeah.
Here's your new steak, America. Here's your new new Tomorrow episode, America. That is what. Okay, when we go back and because we record the intros after the fact.
Yes.
Chat room, you need to remind me. That is how we're gonna open the show. Here's your new Tomorrow episode, America. All right. Anyhow, so brilliant tweet from Chris Radcliffe on that. All right, and finally, the end of the year, December 18th, 2014. India, the ISRO, as we talked about in our news earlier this week, launched the Geosatellite Launch Vehicle, GSLV Mark III, and the CARE capsule as well. Both missions a success. A great test of a new rocket and a new capsule program. It's amazing. When you look back at 2014, it's amazing how many new rockets, how many new spaceships we have. I mean, humanity's space presence is just now coming online. It is a really great time to be alive. Whether you agree with spaceship A or B does not matter. We should be, as the space community, cheering for all of them, because all of them enable our access to space. Some of them may succeed, some of them may not, but that's why we should be cheering for all of them to try at the very least and see who actually can make it out there and do some really, really cool things. What was your favorite? I'm going to throw this at you. What was your favorite moment of 2014?
For very extremely selfish reasons.
Oh, you can be selfish.
I have to say the Dragon Mark II reveal.
Yep.
I was lucky enough to be able to be there at the time. So literally at curtain drop, I was basically an audience member, and that was a really, really cool, exciting. It felt very much so like a performance, which I think every single rocket reveal should be like, or anything that goes along with a rocket, because that's not a rocket, that's a module. That was very, very cool. That was a lot of fun and exciting and different, and I don't know. It was neat to see. I must have had certain expectations.
Sure.
Because at full reveal, I kind of went, "Oh, that's neat," right? So and it was fun to sort of be to get that feeling live. I guess. So,
sure.
I apologize. You couldn't all have been there, but it was a very, very cool thing.
Oh, but they could participate live. There was a live stream of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not quite the same, but it's still you feel like you're part of the community.
The live stream got that really cool camera boom move, like it actually came like around. There's a
this is your new camera boom move, America.
But there you go. There was the very first Dragon that SpaceX flew was hanging, and the camera went from there, and it kind of came around like, oh, this is the old Dragon, this is the new Dragon, baby, and it was really cool. It was a neat sort of thing that I didn't.
That's what we said on comms, by the way.
I'm sure.
Go from old Dragon to new Dragon, baby.
I'm sure, but that's something that I could only see afterwards, and live it was sort of like that camera's gonna hit things.
Duck.
Right, but other than that, Anyway,
I don't actually have a singular moment in 2014. I think my thing in 2014, when you go back up and you look at the Electron rocket and you look at the Firefly rocket, you also look at a couple moments we didn't talk about. Was the Lunar Mission 1 was funded.
Yeah.
I don't remember if Mars 1 did their Indiegogo campaign this year or last year, but it was fairly recently. So from a personal standpoint, this is my realization that, we can crowdfund amazing new things yet. And I started realizing that, you know what? If humanity isn't happy with where these government programs are going, we could just fund it ourselves eventually.
Yeah.
I don't think we're at that point quite yet.
No.
I don't think the crowdfunding community is quite to the level where we would be able to crowdfund, say, a Mars mission.
Right.
But I can see in the future where that may actually be possible, where we can fund whatever we want. And so we are no longer reliant on NASA or the US government or ESA or anyone else. We can just go, we're going to make one. Humanity can just go, we're going to make a mission to Mars. And someone can make that go. I don't know when that will happen, like when a mission of that caliber will happen.
Right.
Maybe not even in our lifetime, but maybe. I don't know. And that was kind of the cool moment for me. Any good comments in the chat room that I kind of...
I think it was Vax who said, and this show became tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The show did become tomorrow.
Finally.
Now, before we go into break, one more time, I'm going to remind you, because we became tomorrow, starting with Season 8, starting with our very next episode after this one, you're going to find those over at youtube.com/TMRO. The branding transition is basically complete. So twitter.com/TMRO, TMRO.tv, youtube.com/TMRO. Stop using anything that says Spacevidcast. We've got over 22,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel, which means I can't just hard cut one to the other. I need to ease you guys over. But please help make that transition as smooth as you can. Subscribe right now, even though there aren't any videos there. That's your best place. Subscribe to that right now today. And as soon as we start Season 8, you're going to start seeing all of that populate. It's going to be pretty freaking cool. So yeah, I'm excited for the set's going to come down. That's going to be sad and awesome. The table's going to go away. We'll talk about that more in our next segment. Speaking of, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, comments from our last week's show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
1, 0. Liftoff.
The fleet of space shuttles were doing amazing things in space.
We've got all your space geekery right here.
You know, another thing that happened in 2014 is I tried the beard. And I lost the beard.
I completely got rid of my glasses. Although I do have to say, because this is the last time that you're going to see, spacevidcast.com/TMRO, the last time that we are going to be posting on youtube.com/SpacevidCast for the effectively, that we also are going to stop using SpacevidCast, as you noted in the last commercial break?
I certainly hope so. We're
There's
desperately,
Spacevidcast.
we are trying to get...
At the very end of the show, you'll look, woo, Spacevidcast.
I am desperately trying to get those done before our next show on,
Yeah.
what is it, January 10th, I think it is, or whatever that is.
Something like that.
It's going to be tight, I'll tell you right now.
So feel free to berate him on that.
It's going to be
When
hard.
he's telling you to stop using Spacevidcast.
And actually, someone brought up in the chat room, it's still irc.spacevidcast.com/TMRO. Actually, the IRC server, that one actually, I'm going to do something stupid, and I'm going to blow away the old one. I'm just going to completely shut it down and spin up a brand new instance over at irc.tmro.tv. So that will happen next year as well. So expect to see that. You'll get announcements, and I'll tell you guys how to post to the new server. But it doesn't mean you'll have to re-register. All right, let's go into... I almost forgot. The people who make this show happen, the lifeblood of the show. Cannot believe I almost forgot. These are the citizens of tomorrow who have contributed to this show. These are the people who've contributed at least $3 or more, and they're going to get a copy of After Dark available immediately on demand. They don't have to wait 4 weeks like everyone else to get this After Dark episode. To get that level, it's $3 or more for each individual episode, but there are more people. Actually, before I go into more people, Michael, Jamie, Samuel, Travis, Tom, and Jash are the new patrons who helped make this one go. So thank you to all of our new patrons. And then, of course, we've got our regular patrons. These are people who contributed $1 or more to this specific episode. Dave, Lassie, Rob, Scorch, 289, Douglas, Doug Ellison. Oh.
Hi, Doug.
Hi, Doug. Welcome, Doug. Darren and Robert, welcome to Citizens of Tomorrow. Thank you so much for contributing to the show and to help make it happen. If you would like to learn more information on how you can contribute to tomorrow, go over to patreon.com/TMRO. We are a crowdfunded show. Every dollar helps. Even 50 cents per episode helps. You know, whatever you can help contribute to the show. We put it into cool new things, trying to get new content for you guys, do neat, interesting things with the show to improve it and stuff like that. All right, let's go ahead and get started with some comments from our last show.
Wow, did we have comments from our last show?
It's a polarizing topic. Our last show was Mars 1, right?
Yep.
And there are a lot of opinions on Mars 1.
Yep.
And so here you go. This is Nick first.
This is Nick. Mars 1 project, the fine line between crazy and brilliant is the results. Jury is still out, but I'm excited to bear witness.
I agree, right? So as I talked, I kind of paralleled Mars 1 with SpaceX.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, a lot of people said Elon was crazy. You can't do this. This is the realm of governments. A lot of people are saying the same thing about Mars 1. Right. I think one of the big differences is Elon had a plan that was somewhat viable, and I'm not sure that Mars 1 is there yet. I still have huge issues with their entry, descent, and landing.
I mean,
and their
feel
in
like both of
situ
them,
resource utilization, ISRU. I am not convinced of those two things, which are two of some of the most important things. Now, I'm not unconvinced of those things. I don't think they know them yet. Now, Dutta actually had a very good point on Twitter. He's like, well, those should be some of the first things you do. Mm-hmm. And I think they are actually some of the first things they're doing. They're not the first things,
right?
But they're obviously very, very much so upfront in the whole process. And I think those two items together will dictate how long this will actually take. So there you go.
All right.
Chris Radcliffe said...
regarding my last tweet, I'm actually rooting for Mars 1 project to get people to Mars and prove us all wrong. I'm a hopeless dreamer.
And if you'd like to see his last tweet, that's at Chris Radcliffe on Twitter. And actually, I think that's kind of the opinion that I came to, which is we can be skeptical and we can kind of point out some of the things like the entry, descent, and landing is not a viable platform. Like they do not have a viable entry, descent, and landing option right now. And what Boss said on the show is not something that will get humans on Mars. It is not a viable plan. And I can beat him up over it, but there's no need because they don't know yet. So the only thing he can truly come back is like, look, we're studying this. We don't know yet.
Sure.
And that actually, a lot of people just don't want to accept that as an answer. Like
because it feels like step 1, collect underpants. Step 2, step 3, profit. Like that's how it feels. I'm sorry, it just does. Regardless of how legit that argument is. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, but a lot of things feel that
So
way
it's like,
at
it's
first.
cool, we're just collecting underpants. No big. And then eventually, Mars. And you're like, that's not a thing.
But that's not what... I know that it feels that way, but that isn't actually what they're doing.
No.
Right? So what they're doing right now is they're doing the studies with Lockheed to go, okay, what do we really need to do for this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
How is this really going to happen? What are the gaps and holes that we're missing? Like EDL, entry, descent, and landing, like ISRU. What are the things that we need to have happen? And until that study is out, we're not going to get those answers. So at the end of the day, we just have to wait. And we suck today as society. We suck at waiting. We don't want to wait.
Yeah.
But we've got a year. We've got a year or two to get some of the more solidified answers on that. Now, after a year or two, if they still don't have real answers, then yeah, I mean, they're not going to have a real definable timeline until they understand what those elements are.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And collecting underpants does not get you to Mars, just FYI.
Doesn't it though? No. I mean, that's step one.
Step one. Cool.
All right, moving on.
The Tabasco.
Tabasco.
Anyhow, it says, I figured, and though I appreciated your warranted skepticism, we can be both skeptical and supportive for those trying to advance mankind.
So, one of the advantages of using Twitter is it forces you to put your ideas and thoughts into a cohesive 140 characters.
It's
one
hilarious.
of the disadvantages that it also allows you to use tweet speak and use like B and 4 and just kind of text speak to make things go. You got to fit more into 140 characters.
I do appreciate the words. The use of words like appreciated and warranted skepticism, along with the letter B, the number 4. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. It's refreshing.
We are. I mean, to be clear, my position is I am skeptical of the timeline. I do not believe 2025 is a reasonable timeline, even if they had an EDL plan, entry, descent, landing plan right now.
Yeah.
I do not believe they'd be able to maintain 2025. But I also understand why they keep saying 10 years.
Sure.
If they say, look, we're going to do this in 30 years, you just lost us. Right? We no longer care. 30 years is too far away
people just can't
for us to care.
that.
And the dirty little secret that people are forgetting is they're already 2 years late. They've already pushed the whole timeline backwards 2 years. So they've been out for about 2 years, and they seem to consistently push the marker 1 year each year. And I think they'll probably continue to do that because 10 years is the magic number.
Right.
They don't want to go over 10 years because that's the point where you just have a hard time comprehending projects.
You just check out.
But you check out. And so for better or for worse, they're trying to keep it inside of that 10-year time frame and aggressively push for that. And then when they don't make it, they just kind of slide it to the right a little bit.
Right. The other sort of thing is that I think collectively within the space industry, no matter what country you're from, there is the Kennedy speech that sticks into everyone's mind. And while he didn't say within a decade, he said by the end of the decade.
Right, which gave him less than 10 years.
Exactly. But the word decade, particularly because he has a Boston accent and he says decade, it sticks. It sticks with you. And so I think everyone makes the mental leap between, well, they did this, and in a decade they did that.
Yes.
Right? And so you have this, well, we can do it within a decade before, we can do it within a decade now.
Yeah.
Regardless. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's so ingrained in the culture, the space culture, that, I mean, I do
I don't even think it's space culture. I think it's all culture, right? Because the moon landings were such a global event.
Sure.
And that speech is
That's
so
fair.
ingrained into most of humanity.
Right.
I mean, not all of humanity, but,
but you're right. I mean, but I think that's why. I think we all sort of glom onto, you can do anything in a decade.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Anything's possible in a decade.
And I think that is an important part, is that they will not make their timelines, but they will always and I don't know for certain. I don't believe they'll make their timelines, but I also don't think they're going to say anything less or anything more than a decade. I think that's the magic number they need to keep it within.
I'm being corrected in the chat room. Yes, before the decade is out.
Decade.
Is the exact quote. You understand my feeling. Stop.
There you go. So
mostly from our director right now.
So yes, warranted skepticism, because even if they push to the right, they still don't have a valid EDL plan. They still don't have resource utilization plans. Right. I don't think they appreciate or comprehend the weight issue, or appreciate or comprehend the Mars atmosphere issue.
Right.
And actually, I would. Well, we'll get to that comment later. Yes.
Right.
Yes, we'll get to that comment later.
Also, somebody really quickly said in the chat room, then isn't Elon's dream of getting to Mars slipping as well? To a certain extent, yes, except Elon, as far as I'm aware, I will say that very clearly, as far as I'm aware, never said, I want to be on Mars by X time.
He's always kind of given rough timelines.
Yeah, he said he wants to retire there, but people are retiring at 80 anymore. And so that gives him like nearly 40 more years at this point. So there's that. Anyhow.
All right, moving
comment.
on. This one comes from the NASA intern.
Yes. Tomorrow, does NASA Orion have an in-flight abort planned like commercial crew does? Hashtag space, hashtag NASA, hashtag...
Right. So the answer is yes, absolutely. In fact, that Orion module that launched atop the Delta IV Heavy did its little orbit around the Earth, a little orbit around the Earth, and then splashed back down.
Does.
That is the launch abort test article. They're going to launch that atop a Patriot missile. Someone in the chat room, remind me what we're launching that on top of. Anyone? Dada, do you remember? Nope. I think it's a Patriot missile, but they're launching it on top of some other vehicle. And they will perform a launch abort test with that actual unit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just like commercial crew, they will be doing an in-flight launch abort with that exact unit before EM2 Exploration Mission 2, which is the unit that will be sitting atop Space Launch System and carry humans. It is a Peacekeeper missile. That seems correct. It's a Peacekeeper missile. Thank you.
It does seem correct and ironic.
And the whole chat room says Peacekeeper. Lots and lots of Peacekeepers.
Awesome.
The
Peacemaker missile.
The Peacemaker. Go back to last episode. All right.
So Srepstek? Yep.
Srepsk.
Next comment says, 2025 gold doesn't leave much room for eventual slippage in the Mars 1 project schedule, I imagine, but ambition is required for any space projects.
Yes. So
Absolutely.
It's just going to slide. Right, so it's just unlike the Kennedy speech, which was you have to do it before the end of the decade.
Before the decade is out.
Before whatever. The Mars project is look, we're going to do this in 10 years, and they're just going to keep sliding the 10-year marker to the right.
Right.
That's how you fix that. I mean, it sucks, but that's how that's going to work.
Next year it'll be 2026. It's fine.
It could. You joke. I feel like we should place a dollar bet right now as to whether that will actually happen or not.
Right.
I'm gonna do a $0 bet. I'm gonna do a gloating bet with the whoever wants to take it in the chat room. You will get gloating rights. As to I believe that by the end of 2015, the timeline for Mars 1 will have slipped to 2026. So there you go. All right.
This last one comes from one of our newest patrons, actually, Doug Ellison.
Hi, Doug.
Hi, Doug. Says, seriously, this is Mars 101 stuff. Mars 1 Project's entire EDL strategy is based on a huge mistake that's a 5-second Google away.
I assume that Doug is referring to the idea that if you land lower, you've got a lot more atmosphere to go through, and so you can land heavier stuff. That is absolutely true on Earth, or at least true-ish on Earth, right? You've got a very thick atmosphere here. The lower you can get, the more atmosphere you can use in your parachutes.
Right.
Very less true on Mars. Boss did get some of the information on Curiosity incorrect. As to where it landed, and the amount of additional payload they will be able to bring is really not that much, if not any at all. Right? So really, they're limited to what we have been able to do thus far, the technology we have thus far, which, if I remember right, is around, and Doug is going to kill me for getting this wrong, but I think it's like 900 kilograms or so for Curiosity, which is the usable mass that landed on the planet. Now, there was more mass that went down, but that's the usable mass of Curiosity, if I remember. That number may be incorrect. That is not enough. Mass for humans. Straight up, not enough for food and water that they're going to need to bring. Now, they want to harvest water in advance. That's going to be really hard to do. Many problems there. But the only way they're really going to be able to land, in my opinion, is propulsively landing. They're not going to be able to use parachutes. They're not going to be able to use a sky crane. They're not going to be able to use the balloons, right? That we did the balloon thing, the bubbles, they bounce. Right. Yeah. They're going to have to do propulsive landing. So far as I know, there really only is one company in the world working on propulsively landing a craft the size that is necessary to do that. Possibly two, but I'm not sure on the second one.
Right.
The first one is SpaceX. You're watching them do that. In fact, when they launch CRS-5, you'll watch them actively work on propulsive landing. The second company is Masten Space Systems. I'm not actually sure if he's doing that, but it feels like he is, right? So you kind of look at some of the projects he's doing, they keep kind of getting bigger, and you can kind of see, oh, I think I see where you're going with that. But he hasn't actually said that, so I'm kind of making some assumptions. So that's it.
We should make him say it.
We should. Dave, come back on the show and tell us that you're trying to propulsively land on Mars. But outside of that, they've done the study with Lockheed Martin. You know what Lockheed Martin is not actively working on, to the best of my knowledge? Propulsively landing on Mars. Same thing with Boeing, right?
Yeah.
They don't have these active. They go, oh, well, they did the sky crane system and all these. Well, yeah, but it's not big enough. You need to land basically a rocket first stage size or bigger worth of stuff, and that is not an easy task, and that means you need fuel, which means you're probably going to need fuel depots up there. That is not a word I've ever heard out of Mars One, is fuel depots. So they have a problem with EDL. I'm going to give them some time to fix that problem. I think it's fair to give them some time to fix that problem, but they don't get an infinite amount of time, but they do get a year or two based on their timeline to figure out EDL. And then entry, descent, and landing. And once they have that figured out, I think the story will start to change. I think once they get a lander on Mars and their first private company to put a lander on Mars, even though governments have done that before, it's still the first private company to do it. That's something different. Now they've got the relationships and the funding to at least put a lander on Mars. They probably have enough of that. That's a smaller project. With the bigger human project, maybe they've got enough to figure out the rest of the stuff. So you can start to see that go. If they hit none of these markers, then it's a different story. So warranted skepticism, I think, is the correct way. I've gone from there's no way this is going to happen to it is highly improbable that it will happen in the amount of time that they've given us. Yeah. So there you go. That's our show. As another reminder at the end of this segment, youtube.com/TMRO. I cannot say that enough. We are moving from youtube.com/SpaceVidcast over to youtube.com/TMRO. Please subscribe to that channel. Tell your friends to subscribe. Get the number of subscribers is what enables us to do other cool things. And then this transition straight up will be painful. And I think it's worth it. I think it's been worth it for the show. I like the new brand. I like what it's done. I think it's really, I'm happy with it. So please head over to youtube.com and subscribe over to that, or youtube.com/TMRO, subscribe to that channel. All right, we're going to take, we're going to end the show. When we come back, for those of you watching live, we're going to end up with After Dark. And for those of you not watching live and who are not patrons, you'll be able to watch that episode in about 4 weeks' time. This is our last show of 2014. We will come back January 20th.
20th. It's a new time.
It's a new date and time.
Yep.
We're coming back January 20th. I did it again! January 10th, 2014 is our next live show.
2015.
2015. We're done. Goodbye. Stay tuned for the rumble in the Amazon jungle. Go, America. 3, 2, 1, and go tomorrow. +1, +2, +3. And liftoff of tomorrow. Hoisting harmony to the heavens and beyond on this episode of Tomorrow. Decks are nominal, director is nominal, VTR is nominal, screens are nominal, show is nominal.